It started with a weather alert that never appeared on anyone else's phone. I know how that sounds, and I spent weeks trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. But the screenshot was still sitting in my gallery afterward, time-stamped exactly 23 minutes before the National Weather Service issued any warning. The message didn't tell me to take shelter. It told me to stay away from the emergency shelter. I live in a small town where thunderstorms are just part of summer. We lose power a few times every year. Tree branches come down, and everyone complains until the lights come back on. Nothing about that evening felt unusual. The forecast called for scattered storms. I finished work around 6, grabbed groceries, and headed home. The air felt heavy enough to chew. The sky had that strange green tint people always post pictures of before bad weather. When I pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed. The notification looked official. Severe weather emergency. Do not report to the community shelter on Miller Road. Wait for further instructions. I remember reading it twice because it didn't make sense. The community shelter was exactly where everyone was supposed to go during tornado warnings. I tapped the notification. Nothing. It disappeared. I opened the weather app. Nothing. No alerts. I even checked my notification history. Still nothing. I shrugged it off as some weird glitch. Around 7:30, the sky turned almost black. Thunder rolled so hard my windows rattled. Rain slammed against the roof like handfuls of gravel. Then the power went out. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an actual emergency alert. Tornado warning, seek shelter immediately. No mention of Miller Road. Exactly what you'd expect. I grabbed a flashlight and got in my truck. I didn't have a basement. The community shelter was less than 5 minutes away. The roads were already flooding. Traffic lights were dead. Branches were flying across the pavement. I almost turned toward Miller Road before remembering that strange notification. It had been fake. It had to be. Still, something about it made me hesitate. I called my older brother. "You heading to the shelter?" I asked. "Already here," he shouted over the wind. "Parking lot's packed." "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just get here." The call dropped. I drove another minute before seeing flashing lights. A sheriff's SUV blocked the intersection leading to Miller Road. An officer waved everyone around. I rolled my window down. "The shelter full?" I yelled. He leaned toward me. "Bridge flooded, roads closed, go to the high school gym." That wasn't normal. The bridge had never flooded before. I followed the detour with dozens of other cars. The rain became so heavy I could barely see the taillights ahead. Halfway there, another emergency vehicle flew past me toward Miller Road. Then another. Then 3 ambulances. I figured someone had been hurt by the storm. Nothing more. The high school gym was chaotic. Families sat on basketball courts wrapped in blankets. Kids cried every time thunder cracked. Volunteers handed out bottled water. I found my brother after about 20 minutes. He looked confused. "I thought you said you were already here." I was. "What?" "I got to the community shelter first." I frowned. "But you told me. They evacuated everybody. Why?" "No idea." He rubbed rainwater from his face. "Cops showed up yelling for everyone to leave immediately." "They said the bridge flooded." He stared at me. "What bridge?" "The one leading there." He shook his head. "I parked on the Miller Road side. There wasn't any flooding." That was the first moment something felt genuinely wrong. Not scary, wrong. The storm lasted another hour before weakening. Just after midnight, officials announced everyone could go home. No tornado had touched down. Just heavy rain and straight-line winds. On the drive back, I noticed Miller Road was blocked with police tape. Not flood barriers, crime scene tape. There were floodlights everywhere. News vans, state police. I slowed down. An officer immediately motioned for me to keep moving. The next morning, every local news station reported the same thing. Emergency structural concerns forced evacuation of the community shelter during severe weather. That was it. No details, no interviews, nothing. A few days later, people started asking questions online. Posts disappeared. Comments were deleted. Someone claimed they'd heard gunshots. Someone else said hazardous chemicals were discovered underground. Another person insisted there'd been a gas leak. None of it matched. About a week later, my brother called. "You still have that weird weather alert?" I nearly dropped my coffee. "How'd you know about that?" "I got one too." "What did yours say?" He went quiet. "It said not to bring anyone with me." Neither of us laughed. We compared screenshots, different wording, same timestamp. Same government-style formatting. Neither message existed in notification history anymore. We contacted our phone carriers. They found nothing. Life slowly returned to normal. Or at least it pretended to. About 2 months later, I stopped for gas while driving home from work. The cashier recognized me. "You were at the high school shelter during the storm, right?" "Yeah." She looked around before speaking. "My husband worked cleanup at the community shelter afterward." "What happened?" "He signed paperwork saying he'd never discuss it." I smiled. "So, you're discussing it?" She didn't smile back. "He quit his job the next day." "What did he see?" "He won't tell me." She lowered her voice. "But he burned his work boots in our backyard." I left with more questions than answers. The story would have ended there if curiosity hadn't gotten the better of me. 3 months after the storm, I drove out to Miller Road. The shelter looked abandoned. Fresh fencing surrounded the property. Security cameras watched every entrance. Construction equipment sat idle behind locked gates. A sign read, "State property, no trespassing." As I stood there, an older man walked his dog along the opposite shoulder. "You looking for answers?" he asked. "I guess." He nodded toward the building. "My daughter was one of the EMTs that night." "What happened?" "She won't talk about it." "Can you?" He scratched his chin. Only thing she ever admitted was they weren't treating storm injuries. I waited. Then what were they treating? He shook his head. I asked the same question. That answer haunted me for months. Then something happened that finally pushed me over the edge. I was organizing old photos on my computer when I found a video I'd accidentally recorded during the storm. It was only 15 seconds long. Mostly darkness, rain, thunder, my truck dashboard. I almost deleted it. Then I noticed something. The radio. It was playing quietly in the background. Not music. Emergency dispatch traffic. Apparently, I'd bumped the scanner app without realizing. I turned the volume up. Most of it was static. Then one sentence came through clearly. Repeat. Do not transport survivors to Miller Road Shelter. Survivors. Not evacuees. Survivors. A second voice interrupted. Facility compromised. Containment failed. The recording ended. I uploaded the clip to an audio forum, hoping someone could clean it up. Within an hour, strangers had enhanced the sound. Most agreed the words were accurate. The next morning, the post had disappeared. Not removed by moderators. Gone. My account password no longer worked. The email attached to it had been changed. Someone had gotten into it overnight. That scared me more than the recording itself. I stopped digging. Almost. Last winter, I received a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single printed photograph. The community shelter parking lot, taken from above. Hundreds of people stood outside during the evacuation. On the back, someone had written, "You were never supposed to be rerouted. No signature, nothing else." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I noticed something in the photo. My truck. It was parked near the exit exactly where I remembered. But there was another vehicle directly behind it. A dark SUV. The driver's door was open. Someone stood beside it, looking straight up at whoever took the aerial photo. At first I assumed it was coincidence. Then I zoomed in. The person wasn't looking at the camera. They were looking directly at my truck, waiting. I checked the timestamp embedded in the digital scan after having it professionally digitized. The photo wasn't taken after the evacuation. It was taken 17 minutes before I ever arrived. Which means whoever mailed it already knew exactly where I would park before I even decided to leave my house. I still get nervous every time thunderstorms are forecast. Not because of tornadoes. Because every severe weather alert makes me wonder if one day another message will appear first, and this time, I might not ignore it. I still don't know why my windshield was the only one left untouched. Every other car in the rest area looked like it had been beaten with a sledgehammer. Mine was completely dry, perfectly intact, except for a folded highway map tucked under my driver's side wiper that definitely wasn't there when I parked. I almost threw it away. I wish I had. It happened last August while I was driving home after visiting family. I had about 4 hours left on the interstate when weather alerts started lighting up my phone. The forecast had mentioned thunderstorms all day, but now they were warning about 60-mile-an-hour winds, hail, and possible flash flooding. The sky changed fast. One minute it was cloudy. The next it looked like someone had poured black ink over the horizon. I pulled into a state rest area with maybe 20 other cars. It seemed like the safest place to wait out the storm. Inside, everyone was doing the same thing. Some people were drinking coffee. A family sat on the floor playing cards with their kids. Truck drivers stood near the vending machines watching the weather coverage on TV. Nobody seemed especially worried. Then the lights flickered. Outside, the wind hit all at once. It sounded like a freight train rolling through the parking lot. A woman near the entrance looked outside and muttered, "That's not good." The rain arrived seconds later. It slammed sideways into the windows so hard nobody could see the parking lot anymore. Then the hail started. The noise was unbelievable. It sounded like thousands of baseballs hitting metal. Everyone instinctively backed away from the glass. For nearly 20 minutes, nobody even tried leaving. Eventually, the hail stopped. The rain eased enough that people started checking on their vehicles. The second I walked outside, something felt wrong. Not because of the damage, because everyone else looked confused. Car alarms were going off everywhere. Windows were shattered. Mirrors had been ripped off. Several windshields were completely spiderwebbed. People were swearing and calling insurance companies. I walked toward my car expecting the worst. Instead, I froze. Not a scratch. Even stranger, the pavement around it wasn't covered in broken glass like the others. It looked almost untouched. Then I noticed the folded highway map, an old paper map. Who even carried those anymore? I picked it up. Someone had circled an exit about 40 miles ahead with a red marker. Nothing else. No message, no name, just one exit. I figured it was somebody's weird prank. I tossed it onto the passenger seat and started driving. The storm followed me. Lightning flashed every few seconds. The radio kept warning drivers about flooded roads and downed trees. About half an hour later, traffic slowed almost to a stop. A digital highway sign flashed. Major accident ahead. Expect delays. Cars crawled forward. I glanced at the paper map again. The circled exit was less than a mile away. Without really thinking, I took it. A few other drivers did too. The detour led through quiet farmland. No traffic. No flooding. After 15 minutes, I was back on the interstate beyond the backup. I figured I'd gotten lucky. Until I stopped for gas. The TV inside was showing helicopter footage of the interstate. A chain reaction crash. More than 30 vehicles. The timestamp matched exactly when I would have been sitting in traffic. A truck had jackknifed during the storm. I stood there watching in silence. The cashier noticed. Bad wreck. Yeah. They're saying people were trapped for hours. I drove the rest of the way home, wondering who had left that map. For weeks, I forgot about it. Then another storm rolled through. This time, I wasn't traveling. I was cleaning my car when the folded map slid out from beneath the passenger seat. I opened it again. The same exit was circled, but now there was something I swear hadn't been there before. A small handwritten number. 14. I honestly thought maybe I'd missed it before. I threw the map in my desk drawer. A month later, I needed directions for a camping trip because my phone kept losing service. I remembered the map. When I unfolded it, another number had appeared. 17 different handwriting. same red ink. I asked my wife if she'd written on it. She looked at me like I was joking. No. You sure? I haven't touched that thing. I dropped it. Life moved on. 3 months later, another severe thunderstorm hit while I was driving home from work. Nothing major, just heavy rain. Traffic slowed near an overpass. That's when I saw it. A man standing on the shoulder holding folded paper maps. He wasn't asking for money. He wasn't hitchhiking. He simply watched every passing car. As I drove by, he raised one map toward me. I kept going. When I checked my mirror, he hadn't offered one to anyone else. That bothered me enough that I told a coworker the next day. He laughed. You probably saw a survey guy. Maybe. Except survey guys don't stand in thunderstorms without reflective clothing. 6 months passed. One afternoon, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. The man introduced himself as an insurance investigator. He asked whether I'd been traveling during the hailstorm the previous August. I said yes. He asked if my vehicle had been damaged. No. He paused. Interesting. What is? We're reviewing an unusual claim. What kind of claim? I can't discuss it. Then he asked if anyone had approached my vehicle during the storm. I mentioned the paper map. Silence. Finally, he said, you should probably get rid of it. The call ended. I couldn't stop thinking about that conversation. Instead of throwing the map away, I searched online for similar reports. Eventually, I found an old forum where someone described almost the exact same thing. Thunderstorm, rest area, paper map, circled exit. The post was 8 years old. Another user replied saying it had happened to his father. Then the thread ended. No explanations, no updates. I messaged both accounts. One never replied. The other answered 2 weeks later. He asked if my map had numbers written inside. My stomach dropped. I wrote back, 14 and 17. He responded almost immediately, don't unfold it again. I asked why. He never answered another message. Curiosity got the better of me. A few nights later, I spread the map across my kitchen table. I examined every inch. Tiny red marks covered several highways. Most looked random, until I realized they matched dates. Not roads, calendar dates. Then I found another number, 22. It definitely hadn't been there before. I finally decided to destroy it. I carried it into the backyard and burned it in a metal fire pit. It curled into black ash within seconds. I felt ridiculous for ever worrying about it. 2 days later, another envelope appeared under my windshield wiper while I was at work. Inside was another identical highway map. Brand new, same manufacturer, same circled exit. Only this one already had 4 numbers written inside. There was also a short note. You keep surviving because you keep following directions. No signature, nothing else. I reported it to the police. The officer listened politely, then asked if anyone was harassing me. I don't know. Do you recognize the handwriting? No. He sighed. We'll make a report. Nothing ever came of it. Last spring, I learned what those numbers meant. Not because of the maps, because I finally compared them to newspaper archives. Every number matched the date of a fatal interstate crash that happened during severe thunderstorms. Different years, different counties, always within 50 miles of wherever that circled exit was located at the time. Whoever left those maps somehow knew where deadly crashes were going to happen, or knew enough about dangerous road conditions to predict them before anyone else. I still don't know which possibility scares me more. Last week, another thunderstorm rolled through. I skipped work and stayed home. Around dinner time, my phone buzzed with a local traffic notification. Multi-vehicle pileup. Interstate closed. The date was the 26th, exactly like the last number on the map. That night, I opened my garage to take out the trash. There was another folded paper map tucked beneath my windshield wiper. This time, nothing was circled. There was only one sentence written across the front. You're driving someone else's route now. I haven't driven on the interstate since, because if those maps are only warning me, I can't stop wondering who they're leading instead.